You know, we're all going to make a few mistakes in our lives, some of them big, some of them small. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that a person can make in their life is getting married to someone who embarrasses them, doesn't bring them peace. And right now, Ian Garry is definitely going through it, right? With this whole situation with his wife, Sean Strickland. Um, the whole thing is a complete mess. A part of it is a big fat joke because we all just, enjoy talking about it. But underneath the whole thing, there's also something like a little bit more sinister, right? Like the first time I heard about this was, of course, from Sean Strickland, the current middleweight champion of the world. In this tweet right here, where he wrote, I never talk about fighters, girls, but fuck. I almost feel bad for Ian Garry at this point. Bro, your girl is a succubus. Sorry, bro, it happens to all of us once. Hasn't happened to me, Sean. Hasn't happened to me. He says, you got played. Hashtag wag. Hope you have a good prenup. And then now this word wag, of course, is referring to wives and girlfriends of high profile sportsmen and women, right? Just giving you guys a background on what the whole entire thing is going on. And then right after that, I came across this video right here from Sean Strickland where he kind of goes a bit more into detail.
Yes, I never talk about anybody's spouses, but this shit ain't right. It ain't fucking right. I gotta talk about it. Ian Garry, I remember when I met you, dude. It was in New York. You were this fine ass girl. She had the little nipple coverings. We all fucking seen it, right? Everybody fucking seen it. But I remember thinking to myself, there ain't something right about that girl. There's something about that woman that ain't fucking right. The way she walked, the way she looked, the way she talked, I knew it. Now I'm finding out you're 26, she's fucking 40, the ex-fucking husband lives with you, you took the last name, motherfucker, she wrote a book on how to be a wag. I didn't know what a wag was until now, dude. This shit ain't right, dude. She's a succubus. You gotta run away, bro. Hot girls are a dime a dozen. We'll get you one, we'll get you ring girls, we'll get you two at the same time, bro. You gotta pull the ripcord, man. It ain't fucking right, my friend. You gotta pull that fucking ripcord. I'm here for you, the Making News here for you. Do the right things, Ian Garry. Fucking pull that fucking ripcord.
Right? So, right there, Ian Garry is talking about how she wrote a book. She wrote a book on how to be a wag, and we've already defined what a wag is. Now, in her defense, she says that this book that everyone's talking about, this controversial book, was satire. It was a big fat joke. She talks about it on Instagram right here.
I wrote a book called How to Be a Wag. Now that statement itself is a little bit of a stretch. I can hardly call myself an author of an 11-page audible-only satire story that was written in 2010. Now 2010, that context is key because that was during the FIFA World Cup where I was working at OK Magazine, working with various different gossip mags, and we were creating this hilarious satire look at wives and girlfriends in football. If you want to call me an author for that, sweet. I think it was more of a light-hearted podcast, but I was well ahead of my time. That satirical look is, if you listen to it, really silly, and anyone who takes it as fact has completely missed the mark. Lo and behold, I'll hold my hands up, sarcasm isn't well taken, especially with American audiences. British humor and British sarcasm is often lost. At the time, it was a huge success and people got the joke and it went out and it was funny and it did great. If you pick it up now as a content creator and you take it wildly out of context and you use it to troll and hate on someone, this is what you've created.
So she has a bunch of people sending her all kinds of messages, which is, of course, what to expect on the internet, right? When you make a video on someone like that, you kind of expect that a bunch of people are going to do that. So in her defense, she's saying it was a complete joke. It wasn't a serious thing. I'm not really a wag, right? I wasn't really looking for a young prospect, up-and-coming sports athlete with a lot of potential to attach myself to. She's saying it was just a joke. Coincidence? Maybe. It's going to be up to everybody else to decide. But that's not really the only thing when it comes to her, right? Because on top of that, there's a blog that she wrote. This blog right here, titled 5 Crazy Things That Are Normal to the Wife of a UFC Fighter. Now, when I read through this blog the first time, it was just kind of, it was absurd to me because, like, again, I guess she could say this is just, it's satire. It's not to be taken seriously. I was just being lighthearted, but at the same time, it's like you got to understand how this makes the man that you're married to, how it makes him look, right? The guy that you claim to be in love with, your husband, right? Like, part of your responsibility as a spouse is to make your partner not look like a goof, not, at least not make them look like a complete douchebag. And this blog right here does the complete opposite of that. Like, if you read through some of this stuff, one of the part that really really gets you is right here. She says, in this game, ego is not the enemy, self-doubt is. She goes, my husband, make sure you guys can see this, my husband has one of the strongest egos in the sport. There's more than a few reasons he's constantly compared to the notorious Conor McGregor. I don't know if people are comparing him to Conor. I think that's just Ian Garry comparing Ian Garry to Conor McGregor. I don't know who's comparing him to Conor, but that's besides the point. She goes, Ian's ego is so solid that when I say I love you, his first words back are not what anyone ever expects. In private and in public, he always says the same thing, often turning heads. I know you do. I love me too. Like, even if this is true, why are you exposing that about your husband? Like, don't you see how reading that, the first thing you're thinking to yourself is this has to be a joke. No one is this obnoxious. That when your wife looks at you and goes, I love you, rather than looking at her and going, I love you too, you say, I know you do. I love me too. And he's not saying it, like, she's not trying to say he's saying that as a joke. It'd be one thing if it was just a joke, but she's being serious. Like, he genuinely means that. She's referring to his ego. He's got the strongest ego in the sport. She goes, my husband's weight is constantly a topic of conversation. He wakes up, pees, weighs himself, puts the weight into the WhatsApp group that features his conditioning coach and full-time nutritionist, then spends about 10 minutes discussing whether the floor in our bathroom is level as shuffles pro. Like, it is absolutely mesmerizing when you look through this and you see some of what she's writing about him. You guys can go ahead and check out the rest of this blog. Now, that's not where it ends, of course. It turns out then Layla Machado Garry has been in Dylan Dennis's DMs. Now, these messages right here are from 2018. They're not recent, and these messages are extremely innocent. They don't really show anything crazy from her. But when Dylan Dennis is posting about your wife, the same guy that spent months trolling Logan Paul about his wife, you know that, bro. Like, you definitely don't want to get the attention of Dylan Dennis in a situation like this, right? So he posts this picture right here with her sending him a pray your hand emoji. He goes, where are you from? She goes, England, but half Brazilian. She goes, how are you today? Very cool, doing great. Where do you live? This is where it ends. Now, of course, a lot of people are gonna read this and not look at the date that this is old. They'll probably think, oh my God, she's been in Dylan's DMs recently. But even if it's not recently, it's starting to paint a picture, like a sort of a picture of, I guess, the sort of person she is, right? Like, she claims all of this is a joke, the whole wag thing. But then when you start to fit the pieces of the puzzle together and you start to see the clear picture, it starts to look less and less like a coincidence and more affirming the character of a person, right? Like, she's 40 years old. She's in a relationship with someone that's 26. That's not usually normal, right? It's not usually normal in terms of the dynamic between men and women. Women are typically hypergamous, and it's not just about wealth. It's almost always also about age. They typically prefer to be with someone that's older than them, taller than them, in the same tax bracket or higher, someone that's more accomplished than them. Just hypergamy, right? So when you see one that's about 40 years old and she's married to someone that's younger, right? You start to kind of, it raises some red flags, just at least a little bit of a red flag. It could mean nothing. It could be possible that she genuinely met this young guy, found him to be outstanding, his personality to be engaging and infectious. She saw him as someone that she could, learn from, a good father to her kids, and she fell deeply in love with him and married him. That could be a possibility too. But again, it could also be a possibility that she saw this guy, up and coming UFC fighter with a lot of potential, a lot of momentum behind him right now, and she saw an opportunity to wiggle in. And that's possibly what's going on. But at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, with all of this that's going on right now, because in this tweet right here, crazy thing to tweet. He goes, in Gary's wife is she sought out a young athlete to seduce because she's getting old and still wanted to be famous. Nobody of fame wanted you, so you preyed on a kid. You are and will forever be known as a succubus. Right? Kind of crazy tweet. In this tweet right here, he calls in Garry a kid, preyed on a kid. Is a 26-year-old man really a kid, right? Like, that's a question that I kind of, is he a kid? Is in Garry a kid? Perhaps, but at the end of the day, he's an adult, right? And as an adult, like, you have some responsibility, right? He made a decision to marry her. He made a decision to call her his wife, right? So when it's all said and done, it is their decision at the end of the day. Is it odd? Can you find some things about it that's odd? Yes, for sure. There's no doubt about that. But nothing illegal is happening here. There's two consenting adults, and at the end of the day, it is going to be up to Garry to do some soul searching and answer a few questions for himself. Because right now, did he know all this going in, or was he genuinely tricked? Is he hearing all this the first time? Because if it is, then yeah, bro, like, you got, and you should probably do something about that. But if he knew all this going in, he made the decision to be with this person with his eyes wide open. He knew exactly what he was getting into. Then, bro, like, who the heck are we to say anything? He made his decision. That's okay. He can live with the consequences if there are any. They might go ahead and have a freaking happy life in the future, or it could all come down crashing. It is on them. It is on him. His decision. You know what I'm saying? So, where this goes really bad for Ian is that he is a very outspoken guy. Very outspoken, very brash. He's rubbed some fighters the wrong way, and he is very unapologetic with the way that he acts. And then when you go and you restrict your tweets, when you're that kind of person, you're a confrontational person who seems to thrive in chaos like that, but then when this is happening, you protect your tweets. Right there, Sean is gonna call you out. Fucking cuck made his Twitter private. Y'all bullied him too much. This is not where it ends, man. Moving forward, now everybody that he's gonna be fighting will have ammunition, some serious ammunition to throw his way. Every press conference moving forward, he's not gonna be able to be as brash as he normally, or he could double down. I'm so curious to see how he's going to handle this. Is he going to curl up into a shell now that his opponents have a legit freaking nuke to throw his way? Or is he going to freaking say, fuck all of y'all, bring it, I don't care? That would be very, very interesting to see moving forward. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this whole entire thing. Just wanted to have this conversation with you night owls, the few of you that typically watch me around this time. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole thing, and I will see you guys tomorrow with a brand new one. As always, stay safe. Peace out, boys. Have a good one.